Big shout out to all the subscribers. This is the Auction 1 recap about what we talked about earlier about getting elite players and how that came together. I'm just gonna hit it while it's fresh in my mind. Some lessons learned. First thing getting into it started off with nomination chaos. It was draft sleepers, intermediate players. You've got people politicking in the chat room saying, throw trash to the scrubs, throw trash to the bots, and people getting on board with that, and that they were willing to throw players we didn't want. So that's kind of tipping the scales. The bots are acting funny, where there's the suggested value, but then the what they're going to pay value, and at some point you can see we're kind of inverting the league. That too much money is out, and now top players are going for value. So you have to be ready to know who you want and how you're going to adjust when the nominations are just coming out chaotic. I mean, just an example, we get Christian McCaffrey goes first. I get him. Nobody pushes him that crazy. They see that his average price is 75. I get him for 76. No problem. I was willing to go to 90. Didn't matter. And then we get Cam Akers, James Conner. You know what's going on. Saquon Barkley, Shark, Juju, Austin Eckler, I think, goes out there. So it's kind of all over the place. But I get my first player. I'm concerned with how there's so much value coming off the board, and because we're going out of order, and I just want to get Lamar squared away. So I do a Lamar nomination, throw him into the pool. Then we go up to basically again his average bid, no discount there. Get up to like 30, 35, 34. I threw a little chunk bid, didn't go to 40 when I was ready to go to 45 or 50. Threw a chunk bid, froze him up. Boom, Lamar Jackson's on the team, and now I got to kind of sit back and wait on that. There was a point in time where I'm looking at DJ Moore, and it was like, oh, but I'm down to about maybe $86, and there's a lot of big stacks out there, and I'm concerned that if I go to DJ Moore, it's going to spread me too thin. And then I also had to consider that I already had McCaffrey, and then if I get DJ Moore and with Bridgewater, I don't know if I want the whole entire Panthers team, so I kind of got to let DJ Moore go there, that I didn't want, but I had to be patient for the cliff at this point, because now they're dealing with the players that I don't necessarily want to get, the overpriced wide receivers, your Josh Jacobs, your Edwards-Helaire. I'm just sitting tight. And this is an old tip, but let's bring it out again. When small stack becomes big stack again, because for briefly I was at $86, but there was so much chunky paying, and people didn't have Lamar, and they didn't have who I had. So 50s, 40s, everybody's going for the usual, nothing crazy. And I can become big stack again at $86 if you wait long enough. So one of the feelings might be, get your guy overpay and then sit tight for a second. So the players are going for a little while. Let me see what happens here. Even at $65, I can price and force up to $55. But with this high-end outlier strategy, I just didn't want to risk getting hung up, because it was so important for me to get things at the cliff. And I liked how later in the draft, I'm clicking back and forth into it, I was able to get back in and get all my money in. Somebody left the draft with 34. He's getting pizza and wings. Somebody had a 20. There was a lot of money that people didn't really fight with, and I felt good about getting my players. So the cliff hits. I wish it would kick over to the order. So the cliff hits, and I get an A.J. Brown for 12. And it was just about when people had tightened up a little bit, because now I'm 86 and they're in the 40s and 50s. So I'm really happy to get AJ, and I felt like that kind of turned my way. And when I have my eyes on a player, when I see prey just coming across the tundra, I will go up and pay up and deal with what I did to my stack later. And that happens in the middle of the draft with with Evans, with Mike Evans. Mike Evans comes out, and I mean, my stack is okay. I think I was at like 54, 53, and let me fight for Mike here. I have AJ Brown. I want a number one. A lot of things had gone. I knew that some other sleeper work that I wanted, some other third-year players were already gone. Push, push, push. They let me have Mike Evans for 20, and I'm going through. I'm quick. I'm jumping over. I'm checking game logs, and I'm like Sutton. No, Sutton's game logs look like trash. I'm clicking over. I'm like, ooh, Amari Cooper. Either he had just gone. I wasn't confident I was going to get that. I might have put him in there as a tester, and so Mike felt like a needed piece. And you look at Mike's historic numbers. It's just 1K, 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 1K. His whole career. And now he's got the GOAT coming in to throw to him. I just got to think that that's going to be fun. So I get a little piece of that action. But yes, it does cripple my stack down a little bit. Down to, so that $20. Yeah, I missed out here. So Jonathan Taylor, that was just part of the build. I said I was going to have Christian. I'll be okay with Jonathan Taylor, and I'll round my bench out. Whatever happens to Marlon Mack, I don't care. So I'm just drafting upside. I get Jonathan Taylor for 21. The team's pretty much going as expected. And you have to, really reading the room, you got to be paying attention to your team, but I'm paying attention to what guys are spending on, what the bots or other people are going up to, and maybe even checking the teams to see someone's missing a QB, wide receiver, running back, so I can throw things at teams that are missing that certain position. One thing I thought was, if you have the player, not that player, you don't need it anymore. I have Christian McCaffrey, and then I get my second back, so just throw the backs in there, get the high end money off the board, so you can kind of control. Are you going to get players in that you want no part of, or are you going to get players in that are going to extract money from the draft? So really changing that strategy and trying to dictate things as you go through there. Yeah, I've got my Jonathan Taylor. I get in on Mike Evans. I'm going pretty well. And this is where, here we go, the order finally popped up for me. So it goes Jonathan Taylor with my third pick at 29th overall, AJ Brown, Mike Evans, and here's where it got a little rough, is I'm high on Singletary like we talked about, and I didn't want to get caught much deeper, and I'm concerned about Jonathan Taylor not starting out of the gates. So because everybody had been nominating in such crazy orders, and we've got people just holding on to big stack, I get into this fight for Singletary, who I'm hoping to get for 11 or 12. He's going for on average for 13. He suggested at 14. We get into a battle. I'm not coming off of him. I'm not coming off. I go up to 20. I hammer myself. I hammer my team back down, kind of overspending. But at this point, I'm at 2 wide receivers. I'm at 2 running backs. I've got all the pieces that I need. Let's see, because now the draft is literally resetting on me because it's so fresh, and I can just come back and see. I got to click into it here. Let me see the results, if that's going to give it to me. We can go by team. So I get in for an overpay, but that's just kind of a knee-jerk reaction. You don't have time to think about it. The timer is clicking down. So you have to make your decision in 6 seconds, 7 seconds. Are you going to click again, or are you going to get scared? I want players. I don't want the money. I want the players. So being able to push in and knowing, I'll just rest, I'll just adjust. Push in and adjust. So I was happy. I get Singletary. He can either slide into a flex or just hold down that second running back spot. Yeah, now the money is way too high. So I'm down to like $33, $34. And I can price enforce. I can go up to 15 or 16 with my players. And everybody should be slowing down, but because we were nominating in such this reverse order, like nominating trash, but there's still a lot of talent on the board. So I was taking advantage of putting in higher price guys and going, $15 for somebody who was even left there? It's hard to come up with a good example. Melvin Gordon, I'll put in 15. If I were to get Melvin for that price, it would have ruined the rest of my draft. It would have wiped out my money. I would have lived not at all late. So I feel good seeing these guys go in, and that's starting the fight. So there's this competition. Big stacks are trying to assert themselves. Other people still need players, and instead of starting it at 3 and watching it slowly tick up, you're starting. You're throwing it in at 15. You're throwing it in at 20, which is crazy for my stack because I had nothing left. I've bought all these premium players, but then other guys that tick tick tick, they're up at 28. Like, yeah, so you're just destroying stacks in that way. So the non-value, and there was definitely copycat nomination. Giving the draft ideas. Suddenly, people are doing tight ends. People are getting their kickers. I'm nominating. I was picking silly numbers. I'll nominate at 8, and then I see other people nominating at 8, and so I don't fall into a rhythm because I don't like. I get another idea. Now you're copying that. Okay, next guy's 13. Next guy's 15. Next guy's 3, 5. So that's just coming out random to kind of get people off of just normalizing that. I don't want what I'm doing to the draft used back on me. So kept kind of changing up the ideas there. That Devin Singletary pick, we'll have to see later. We'll have to see if I was right or not. Yeah, I did. That did compromise how aggressive I was going to be late on scrubs. One thing super late in the $2, $3, $4, saving a couple dollars, Big Stack is going to get his way until his team is filled out. And that sucks. I hate having to be subjected to that. But we had a couple of those. And then everybody knows to save 2 or 3 now. So when you're really that close to the bottom, 2 or 3 is not going to do it. There's too many people doing it. I get into one late fight. What else did I put in here? Get the money in. A guy sitting with 47 and 76 late, it's just going to be a problem. If you're going to destroy your stack, I guess, if this is your last guy, Devin Singletary, do it late. It's okay to do it late. Don't destroy your stack in the front third of the draft. That's when that's why I was holding off of price enforcing way too much. Late 7 players at 10 plus. So even as I get kind of later into the draft, I'm actually behind a number of players. I only had about 7, 8 guys on my team. I'm seeing the rest of the draft is up at 10 or 11. So I'm going to get some chance at the end to just kind of $1 click through. And at the end, I finally have $2, and a guy's trying to get his last pick in for his last dollar. And Mecole Hardman goes up, snipe. So I get Mecole for 2. I think that's a value if he's the number 2 guy getting a piece of the Kansas City offense. So when you're going late with number 2s, number 3s, get who you want. Get a little snipe in there. That last snipe was literally my last $2. It's going to put me down to $1 bids. But these are a couple of the guys that I get a handle of here. Let me bounce this over. Where's my team? My team called Pay Dirty. So, I took a rest. I grabbed the Chicago defense. They let it slide through. The $1 picks that I'm taking advantage of. Anthony McFarland at Pittsburgh. I get an Austin Hooper who's moved to Cleveland for $1. He's actually really advanced his game. Maybe get some work. There's my Mecole Hardman snipe. And there's so many late players. Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb. All these guys going for $1. I managed to get my hands on a Justin Jefferson for 1. Henry Ruggs for 1. And why draft a kicker when I've got the preseason worth of injuries and other decisions to make, and I get Christian Kirk for 1? So receiver just outrageously deep. I mentioned getting A.J. Dillon in there as if people hadn't heard of that. And so the other thing about practicing the auction, getting a little bit of learning, I get introduced to a couple of names. You see some guys making some plays late and going, should I know about that guy? Antonio Gibson at Washington. Bryce Love is also fighting for time there. I saw someone put Zach Moss up, and he plays for Buffalo. I'm like, oh my God, someone's grabbing my handcuff on Singletary. That's kind of the squad. So just to give the full recap, does this team get it done? Would I have to come at this in a different way where I'm going for more depth? This is Lamar Jackson, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Hooper, and then probably Devin Singletary, however you want to sub that in or out. J.K. Dobbins, Anthony McFarland, McCole Hardman, A.J. Dillon, Jefferson, Ruggs, and Kirk. If something materializes there, or if I start cutting rookies, no big deal. Those are kind of my tips for the draft and being ready. The things I learned where I have to be a little tighter, and I'll come back, I'll go back under the hood, I'll go into the laboratory, and we're gonna really iron out those wide receivers, especially the middle late. If I'm gonna keep kind of exerting this strategy, I obviously could cut Christian McCaffrey loose, but the middle players, the 20s and 30s, people were just all over the place. I mean, I don't have the values right now, and that's enough recap for how my team went. But the middle value wasn't necessarily there because we kept inverting the draft. We kept taking players that were shown on the average price to be going for 13, 12, or going low. Because if we went in order, the money would fall off, and we get the late guys for low. But suddenly, I mean, even Raheem Mostert, Le'Veon Bell, they're just throwing them in there early. Leonard Fournette's in there early. And now instead of going low, they're going high. And so as much as I like them, I've got to be ready with some agility. So maybe pinning down some values if I'm going for an all-value squad. I guess I should have thought through my love for DJ Moore if I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey. I'm upset that I didn't get Marquise Brown, but that's because I got aggressive on a couple of those last picks, but that's okay. I got the option to keep Marquise in another league, and so I can spread out the shares. Auction draft strategy, real auction drafts. We're going to have to fire up a league. I got a league drafting the weekend before Labor Day. That's when I like to do the drafts. I think I'm going to fire up a community listener league. We're going to get in there, a super flex with deep rosters, no kicker, no defense. And we'll probably open that up for a little Saturday night auction draft action. Have a good night. Damn, auction leagues are fun.